Today, we're going to discuss the two biggest factors in negotiating your initial salary that people always overlook. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a much better understanding of what matters, what doesn't, and most importantly, how you can use that knowledge to negotiate the best salary possible. If you're ready, let's get into it. So you've done it. You've made it past all of the rounds of interviews. You answered every single interview question flawlessly and crushed the technical interrogation. Now's the time you've been waiting for, the offer. It might feel like this is where the negotiation begins, but really, the negotiation began in your first interview as they sized you up and determined essentially how good you really are. At this point, they're actually just trying to figure out how little they can pay you to actually accept the offer. But you know that there's more to it than just accepting the first number that the recruiter sends you. Most of the time, our side of this negotiation comes down to accepting their offer or refusing it, unless they increase the benefits or salary or whatever it is you care most about, usually salary. Each negotiation is a little different, but the first place we want to start is to break down the assets and liabilities that each party has, so we can determine what kind of leverage we have to work with. Only then are we going to know how far we can push and if we have any legs to stand on when we ask for more money. When we think about negotiating our salary, we probably think of the most obvious factors. The employer has the money to pay the applicant, and the applicant, theoretically, has the time and ability to complete a set of tasks, otherwise known as working. This is kind of obvious, but oftentimes we stop there when assessing all of the factors in play. We think we're trading our time for a paycheck, and that maybe if we show we're extra skilled during the interview process, that we might get a higher offer. But we can take a deeper look at what both sides have to offer and where each side might have liabilities that can be taken advantage of. Assuming you crushed the interview and it sounds like they want to hire you, what are some of these additional factors that you should think about? Well, today, we're going to discuss two of the most important leveraging factors when negotiating your salary. Now, sure, there's probably several factors that play a role, but these two are going to be the biggest factors and the ones that we need to understand if we're going to get the most out of our negotiation. With that in mind, let's get into the first leveraging factor that plays a huge role in the outcome of your negotiation, and that is timing. This one can really be in anybody's corner. On the other hand, an empty job role is usually hurting the company in some way, shape, or form. Either they're directly making less money because somebody's not there doing that job, or more likely, other employees are having to pick up the slack of that missing employee, leading to angry, overworked, probably less productive employees, which is not something a company can afford to do too much of before it starts impacting their bottom line. When I was working at my federal job, there were actually budget implications when somebody quit or was fired. Budget is usually shelled out on a per team basis by the larger company. I remember somebody left the team that we were on and we needed to fill the spot fast because it was coming up at the end of the year. And if we weren't actively using that money to pay somebody, we just lost the funding. And let me tell you, you can spend years getting funding and lose it in a second. Now that might be an extreme situation, but the point still stands. There are several reasons why the team interviewing you for a job might be in a hurry to hire a new employee. You, on the other hand, probably have your own timetable on getting a new job. Maybe you're just looking around to see what's out there, or maybe you've been unemployed for a few months and will accept anything, right? The first offer you get. That's really going to depend on your situation and if you can afford to wait for the best job offer or need something that has income as soon as possible. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that needing money is just a mindset, but your ability to walk away is arguably the best leverage you've got. And if you feel like you'll never get another job offer and that you have to take this one, your scarcity mindset is crippling your negotiation. Because salary negotiations are usually one of the last things that happen, it is pretty safe to say that whoever can afford to wait has the upper hand. Or in this case, whoever can't afford to walk away is at the biggest disadvantage. Now, in order for you to actually take advantage of this timing leverage, you'll need to be sure that you're not on a time crunch, meaning that you have to have the ability to walk away from any offer given by the company. Now, this is not always an option, I understand that. But if you're proactive with your job searches, it'll allow you to have the upper hand, or at least not be at such a disadvantage. The other thing that you can do is be aware of the company's timetable. Now, sometimes they're more forthcoming than others with this type of information, but throughout your interviews, keep this factor in mind, right? Has the job role been open for days or months? And how urgently are they trying to fill that role? Can they afford to wait for the right applicant, or do they need somebody there yesterday? These are things that you can usually get answers to throughout your interviews. Those will give you insight towards what kind of negotiating power you'll have in this arena. The next step for maximizing your career success is to like this video and subscribe to see more just like this one. The second huge factor that's going to play a role in what kind of job offers you get is the current job market for your industry. Now let's take the housing market as an example. And yes, this might age poorly, but as of right now and for the last year or two, it's been a seller's market. Demand is higher than supply, meaning if the seller doesn't like the offer they're getting, who cares? There's 20 other people lined up for the same house. This is why you've seen bidding wars push up the cost of homes by as much as 20% in some cases. The same type of thing can happen in the job market. For example, you've no doubt heard of the worker shortage driven by the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle, or whatever you want to call it. But instead of owners selling a home, employees are selling their skills. And you, as a future employee, can start a bidding war. What this comes down to is that there's really no objective salary that you should expect for any job. There's what a company is willing to spend on a new employee. When the market is tight and that new employee can go anywhere, they need to beat out the other potential employers. This can be in the form of unlimited time off or remote work, but a lot of the time comparable jobs have comparable benefits, and salary ends up being the deciding factor. This is going to come down to the market for the job that you're going for. Speaking from my own experience in the software developer space, which granted is a broad industry, but generally speaking, supply is going up. More and more people are learning to code every single day, but demand is going up faster. And for me, I noticed a good 25% increase in expected salary just because there's more available roles than qualified people to fill them, at least right now. I expect this is going to have some pretty big impacts down the road as existing employees are finding out that their loyalty to the current company means they're making significantly less than new hires. But that's a different issue for a different day. Now, how can you leverage this all? Well, your leveraging power here is going to come down to your knowledge of the industry, which is going to require some research on your part. Now, you can do some research online, but that's kind of hit or miss. Labor statistics can be a place to start, but they're usually also a little bit out of date. So Glassdoor is also another great place that you can go to see some more current, accurate reviews, but they're just gonna give you anecdotal data to work off of. The best research you can do, hands down, is going out and doing some of your own interviews. Interview frequently, even if you don't want the job, just to understand what a company is willing to pay for your skills in the current market. Now, if you're watching this video, then you're probably actively searching for a job and you're not just interviewing for fun. But hopefully you are interviewing at several companies where you can pick up the type of information that is going to give you the best idea of what you're really worth, so that when it comes time to accept or reject a job offer, you're doing it with the knowledge of what your time and skills are really worth right now. There's lots of other factors that come into play when we're talking about salary negotiation. Level of experience, level of education, cost of living near the job, but these things are kind of incidental. Technically, it's called normative leverage, but anyways. This means that they definitely play a role in whether or not you might get the job and even potentially the level of salary that you might expect. But they're not so much factors that you can really leverage in your negotiation. Sure, they'll probably pay you more if you're in a higher cost area or if you have an advanced degree, but at the end of the day, a company is paying what they can to get the employee who can do the job. That's actually why they tend not to even go after people who are overqualified, because overqualified individuals expect more money, probably rightfully so, but they don't want to pay people more. With the prevalence of remote work, cost of living adjustments also might mean little to the employer, as they could find somebody with similar qualifications in a lower cost area if it came down to it. So if you're looking at jobs that can get away with remote workers, expecting a higher salary just because you live in a high cost area ends up being more of a preference on how much you want to get paid, not a leveraging tool in how much the company has to pay you. Your ability to negotiate is not limited to that initial salary. Throughout your career, you're going to want to ask for a raise, and these videos right here are going to help you with that conversation. Be sure to like this video if you found value and check out these other videos. I'll catch you next time.